Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new broadcast of War Room Italia. I am Guya Mariani, the host. I hope you're all fantastic. You're doing fantastic. So today, War Room Italia will bring another incredible, I could also say, define him American hero because he's behind a revolutionary movie, definitely, and to the Italian audience. And he is a filmmaker and of a very groundbreaking movie. Is this the correct word? I think in English. His name is Scott Wiper, and he's the filmmaker of a Flynn, the movie. Deliver the truth, whatever the cost. Okay. Welcome to my show, Mr. Wiper.
Oh, Guya, thank
Benvenuto.
you very much. Thank you. Grazie.
Um, I am very happy you came here to War Room Italia because Flynn, the movie, has not been properly, actually at all, been promoted in Italy. So I hope some Italians will now come to know the existence of this movie that you directed, that you. What can you tell us about it? Hmm? About this?
Absolutely. So uh, it's a very important film, and it kind of
Mhm.
ties in because when people, be it Americans or people all over the world, when they understand the General Flynn story, so many other things that are happening make sense. It opens up uh, turns on a light, right? Because, and the main thing is we've been deceived, and our corporate media, they've been lying to us about many things. But if you just take one story about one man who's a hero, a veteran, and he served this country for 33 years, um, that's why I decided it was something I had to do. And I was not living in the documentary film world. I was making action movies, you know.
Oh, okay.
I, I,
Fantastic.
I,
Yes, please tell us about you and your background because I myself am very curious and interested to know, where you came from, how you ended up in California. You're in California, I guess, for filmmaking, right?
that's where I've been for 27 years.
Exactly. I thought so. It's the state of filmmaking, and how you came to know General Flynn and decided to get into this documentary.
Okay.
Tell us.
One place to start at the beginning, and if you just interrupt me if I go too long. But
No, no.
I got into making movies. I loved action movies and thrillers, and I went to film school in 1988, finished in
Mm-hmm.
1992, and I studied at a university in Connecticut called Wesleyan, and I also studied at the University of Paris. Paris was an incredible city. My first job in film and television was in Europe, and we'd film everywhere. Did a lot of television and sports. Did the Tour de France. There was a big Italian racer we followed a lot, Johnny Bugno. I don't know if you remember. Um, but we mostly focused was
Course.
and television, but we mostly focused on Greg LeMond and Lance Armstrong. So that was my, and then I immediately, after studying and doing some basic jobs, uh, I went straight to Hollywood, and I was writing screenplays, scripts, and making low budget feature films.
Mm-hmm.
In the days when you did it on 35 millimeter and you had to cut the film and tape it together. Uh, well, so and then through directing, producing, and screenwriting, I've been at it since I moved to Hollywood in 1993. Uh, but something happened, and something similar to the story you told me about yourself. In 2020, I sat down to write a screenplay, and I just couldn't. I had this writer's block, and I couldn't understand what it was. And it was making the movies I've been making at this time in history. I just felt it was silly. I'm sure I'll go back to it, but I needed to do something that was relevant. And I started searching and I put the word out. And at the same time, General Flynn had been meeting with filmmakers, searching to thinking about doing a film on himself, and then mutual people introduced us, and I got an invitation, and that was in February 2023. So there I was. I jumped from making action thrillers to being in one, living.
So you became the protagonist of your movie, let's say, of your life movie.
Well, it was just it was. I am. It's the most. I've never had this feeling as a filmmaker. Like what I've had.
Mhm.
I'm 53 years old. And,
So you said, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Apart from the fact that I want to make a parenthesis, I too studied in France for in Paris for a year, and it was the best time of my life. I loved that city. It really reflects my personality. I had a wonderful time. So we have this little thing in common.
where
But
did you Where did you study?
I was at a European Business School, l'école d'économie, okay, and I was lived in this beautiful street, Rue Dauphine, and the 16e arrondissement.
Yeah.
It was very beautiful. I had a very beautiful stay. I didn't do anything particular, but I was just so inspired with the city and the life, and I just studied. I didn't do much, a few friends, but it's just the city that really
Well, it changes you, and
changed a lot.
it definitely influenced me as an American. I went there
Hmm.
I was 18, and it definitely to this day, time to anywhere outside of your own country
Hmm.
helps you wrap your head around humanity and geopolitics, uh,
Absolutely.
and have compassion for a subject even that hits is in the film, which is war, because
Hmm.
when any country goes to war, it's not just how it affects your people and your country, but
Hmm.
it has ramifications across the earth.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, there's a saying, I think it's Chinese. They say that il battito, the flap of the wings of a butterfly can kill an elephant on the other part of the world. So we really are one word, which like a living cell together. Everything, anything that happens, maybe you don't realize it, but it does affect everything else. And yes, traveling and seeing different cultures and different places does make you fully understand, however, how in the language of a population reflects the architecture of of the place, and the architecture shapes the mind and the feelings are what at the end get people to vote and react and behave in life. So you see that countries and themselves are organisms, are truly like independent people, and you get to experience this by traveling, and you pick up, like when you meet people, every time you meet a person, that person will leave something to you.
Right.
Maybe you pick up a way he talks or a way she moves.
Yes.
And the same is the living in different countries, you pick up and it modifies you forever.
Well,
And
in early sometime in 2016, I was back. I was in Europe, in Paris, and we were talking politics, which has always been a hobby of mine.
yeah.
And they said, "Oh, you Americans are so funny. You can only think in Bush or Clinton," because here we were going in the 2016 election, and the choices were going to be Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. And I was like, you're kind of right. And that was stuck with me when eventually I was like, there's just no, whatever happens, it can't be Bush or Clinton. Like we need
And
change.
so at the end, you figured out that in the bottom of your heart, you really are concerned with the politics, because the politics at the end of the story affect you and your family and our people and our neighbor. And how did you get to know the General Flynn, and how he came up? He came to you. He approached you. He saw your work, and how did this happen?
Um, I came to understand before I met General Flynn.
Yeah.
uh, I had noticed his story, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm a student
Yeah.
of film, but I'm also a student of media in general. And what I noticed, I said to myself, there was a very strange attack going on in him. And I'd seen it with a few other high profile figures, but it just seemed incredibly well orchestrated. And it was. Within mainstream media, they were painting him one way, kind of um, uh, extreme right, and and in alternative media, they were doing anything they could to separate him from Donald Trump, and painting him as still kind of a product of the intelligence community, and potentially part of the deep state, which is absolute nonsense. So, but I was struck by this intense. This was not a normal attack, and I didn't know much, right? So I did tons of research, and I knew this was a good man that was being accused of um, uh, crimes he did not commit, or he was being character assassinated, which is a common theme you see. When it's too hard to assassinate someone, you character assassinate them by narrative. So that's where I realized, well, I've worked on this skill of mine, storytelling, for all my entire adult life, and I put the word out to anyone in the alternative media community that I wanted to do something. And
Hmm.
yeah, he was given my name, he was told about me, and then I got an invitation in February 2023,
Okay.
and it was very much like I knew because I drove where he was in Florida. Where I was at that time was a 20-hour drive, and
Wow.
my fiance said, "Why don't you fly down?" And I said, "I'm driving." And I packed my car with everything because I said, "I have a feeling I'm not coming back."
That is so American from an Italian standpoint of view, imagining the American filmmaker that wants to drive all across America 20 hours to go and meet the General Flynn.
And I
It's
was
a
doing that.
movie.
I was doing that a lot at that time because I drive, but I only do 6 or 7 hours a day, and then I stop somewhere like in Tennessee or Kentucky or Georgia, and I stay in a hotel and have dinner, and that's how I talk. I go to gas stations, and I felt I'm talking to Americans to
Yeah.
rediscover
To,
my country.
to feel the pulse of your country.
Exactly. So we went right into it. And I said, I will approach this. I was very honest. I said, well, I did say also, I was a California Democrat. So I said,
Hmm.
I voted for Barack Obama twice,
Hmm.
voted for Bill Clinton twice. Um, he said, that's fine. He said, uh, and and that was kind of, I felt I was in these conversations with people in my life. You go to dinner and talk about this stuff, and you're just like, because at one point, also for my mental health, I had to make a movie
Yeah.
because I was done just talking, right?
Yeah.
Talking. So I said, well, I better do something. And so we went uh, right into it and filmed for 2 weeks straight. And that was one thing I suggested, was that I thought I had never done interviews before, right?
Hmm.
Um, but they were conversations, and we did them over 2 weeks, so that some days, on day one, we filmed for 12 hours. And he's
Wow.
he's an incredible man. with incredible knowledge. Some of it he can't share, right? Because
Mhm.
people forget. People forget when they sometimes he probably knows more than you think he knows. When people, he ran one of our largest intelligence agencies in the United States and probably one of the largest agencies in the world, which is the Defense
I
Intelligence
yeah,
Agency.
yeah, I have a very high opinion of General Flynn. I'm truly an admirer. He is highly intelligent. He really sees through things, and he is his love is for America. You can tell it because it goes out every pore of his body. He himself was a Democrat, but it's not a matter of being a Democrat or a Republican. It's a matter of having fair elections. It's a matter of having putting the interest of America for the Americans, because America is bleeding and nobody's taking care of your country right now. You're the people in power are only pocketing money for themselves and power for themselves on the come si chiama, on the in it, discapito on the excuse my English, I can't find the word, but on the skin, let's say, of the American people. Okay, so they are like leeches, and it is a pity because the American people, the people that live in America, the Americans, are great, fantastic, and they're being abused. And I understand that America is a dream. America is the dream of independence, of liberty. That was what brought the Europeans to go there, to find liberty of all sorts. And when this comes to be attacked, you're attacking the essence, the soul of that country. And and General Flynn is fully understands this. You can tell in every word he says. Even if he says yes, you understand that he has this at heart. Like you said, I voted for Barack Obama, I voted for Bill Clinton, but you, I understand, have at heart the destiny of America, which is I also have at heart because it's the leader of the free world. I am, and we are in the block, in the in the Atlantic block, like we say. So, in truth, as being the leader, the locomotive of the train, and I am just a wagon of this train. Of course, I want the locomotive to be healthy and that it goes towards beautiful horizons and not towards hell. And I feel that what the American administration now, and especially since uh, the 2000, maybe even before the year 2000, in particular 9/11, it has been going proprio down, and always more and more and more, and we are being pulled down with it. It's been a tragedy even here in Europe since especially the year 2000 when we got into the European Union, and we got to the euro. We don't have the lira anymore, our money, since we left our currency and we became slaves of a private central bank in Brussels, a private bank. We have become increasingly poor, but incredibly, we were ahead of Germany before. And all this has to stop because people are suffering needlessly. This is only a control. But if America falls, everybody else falls. And I really hope that General Flynn, we all the world, believe me, hope that Trump will win this election. Not so much for Trump himself as the man, but for the policies and the direction that he wants to put America back on the rails, and on what rails. And I hope General Flynn will have a position in this administration because he deserves it, and he has the skills, the intelligence, like you said, and especially the sentiment. If you have the sentiment in
And
your heart,
The American people deserve it.
yes,
Because
absolutely.
this is I say this is a once in a generation, a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? To have someone like General Flynn in a position of power to clean up the mess that has become of
Yes.
our intelligence community and
Yes.
government. And I feel the same way about Donald Trump. So you say, I
Yeah.
was a California Democrat, right? But when Donald Trump came along,
Yeah.
this November, I'll be voting for him for the third time because
Great. Fantastic.
well, I'll backtrack. Was we're caught in this game of Republican Democrat. Okay, Donald Trump was a Democrat, John Flynn was a Democrat, I was a Democrat, but none of this matters. It's become a game, right? The way I see it is the real parties are you have globalists and you have those that respect independent nations and their culture, right? And you could also classify those two groups into those that want decentralization and those that crave ultimate centralization of all power. Uh, and you could even break that down into another one, which is you have those that support the central banks. And here in America, that's the Federal Reserve, and those that oppose. So, but they give us these two parties. And one thing I've always believed in, regardless of how I voted, was that there was some kind of a uniparty, which is they create this sense of our drama on television. And then I said to myself, well, the only time when you have the right television state news and the left television news, the and whenever they agree, it's a lie, right? Um, they kind of and the politicians do the same thing. So it's wake what General Flynn does is he calls it like it is. He calls it according to the truth. So he isn't gentle on anyone because they're of the party he's in, be it Republican. It's America first. It is, and America first isn't just about that. Also applies Italy first. That applies France first. That applies Argentina first. Right? It means that we are. We don't want to give in. We don't want to just capitulate to the globalist agenda.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I would like also to go back to the movie now, and I will show the trailer of the movie for the Italians. I put subtitles for the Italians of the thing, and you decided how to the story, because in the movie you talk about General Flynn. People will know General Flynn, the man, his family, get really to understand him as the man, really, and also the incredible story he had to go through, which depicts this tyrant, almost dictatorial, it's tyrannic, dictatorial attitude of the American government towards a fantastic man that dedicated all his life, him and his family, to that country.
Mhm.
And what he has been going through is outrageous. You cannot treat a man like that gave all his life to his country. It's they should respect a man like that, even if you don't agree. But
It,
the way they treated him was disgusting,
it's monstrous.
appalling.
Yes, it's monstrous. What was done to him and to his entire family.
Yeah,
Um, and it's
appalling.
what I hope people there's a lot of humanity in the story because first and foremost,
Yeah.
as a filmmaker, I said this is the story of a family. And at first
Mhm.
I said it's the story of an American family. Then I said
Mhm.
no, this is universal. It's the story of a family. His wife Lori plays a prominent role in the film, and so does his son. One of his sons, Michael Jr., and they were viciously attacked. And so it's been interesting showing this movie throughout the country. Is people they become aware of just how evil elements within our government are. That you could actually do this to these
It's
people.
incredible. It's incredible. The evilness of a certain people is incredible. There's some people that are born evil, that are born mean, and when you give them the power to do whatever they want, to manifest and their evilness, they take it. They
Yeah.
take it. And so the governments around the world, these liberal woke, they say, now I have the power and I can do, the Victoria Newlands of the world. These are, yeah, I would personally put them in the psychiatric hospital criminal division, because those guys, and when they go in, they throw the key away, because those people are true psychopaths. And we
Yes.
get,
Oh, and one of the what I've found is one of the psychological blocks that people
mhm,
have, and they
yeah,
can't understand what's going on, is it's actually their goodness. They have a heart, and they want to believe the best in humanity.
yeah.
And so when they try to understand what's happening, they can't understand or grasp that true evil does exist and it's institutionalized.
Very good. Very well explained. Exactly. They institutionalized the evilness, which is perpetrated by evil people, and they're chosen for their evilness. If you're a man of a virtue, if you're a man of a value that is not corruptible, you have no chance to have a career in the politics, because you're not controllable. Because you're not a, if I am a mafia boss, I'm not gonna hire the nun of the of the town. I'm gonna hire the prostitute of the town, because she has to do dirty work for me. Okay. And this is the same in politics right now. We are ruled by ignorant, and then they're mostly ignorant. They're not prepared. Look, the AOC, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to name one. She's completely ignorant. She's completely ignorant. I'm 100% sure that if I go in the first university here across the street, I can find 20 people that are much more knowledgeable about what happens in the world than her. I remember once she didn't even understand the three branches of American government, and she's there. She's there. It's her job. Just imagine. So it's crazy. So anyway, let me show the trailer of the movie moment. Okay.
President's former national security advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleading guilty today to lying to the FBI. Investigation.
Flynn knew exactly how the system worked. He knew exactly what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding. They had to get rid of Flynn.
There was a moment where I just felt like I was drowning. And so I'm in there with these other, they're all supposed to go in there and tell what they believe to be the truth. What they did was they took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
President Obama said, but I do have one specific recommendation. Stay away from Michael Flynn. He's bad news.
Over time, instead of being pounded down below the surface of the ocean, we started to fight. I'm now above the surface.
Bellissimo. Fantastic trailer. And it says a lot. And also, you understand how, when he says, I thought I was drowning, and then at the end I fought, because he is a fighter. It's like he can't go against it's his nature. No matter, it's like trying to get a plastic ball to sink in the sea. You can throw it down, it can go down a little bit, but then it goes up, because it's nature. It's his, how he's built by the universe. And it's backfiring a lot, because his story, together with even the persecution of Trump and many other, like the story of Roger Stone when they did the raid with CNN filming everything, or even this attack on Steve Bannon or Alex Jones. I mean, all these attacks, people see through it. The people are not the people who are who watch, who see, who know these things are happening. They see what is going on, and. But when they get a fighter like General Flynn, he builds a movement and wakes up all America.
Yes. And what's interesting, when people in life, they have titles, they're the CEO of their company, or they are a general in the military, or they are um, uh, the head of a movie studio. And it's really a question of the definition of power. And what I found fascinating about General Flynn is he retired from the military after 33 years. But when he comes in a room, he is a leader. It's not just because someone said, okay, you are a general. He is a natural leader. And I watched, because at first I was an observer, right? This wasn't like I didn't just do a um, interview, right? As a filmmaker, I immersed myself in his world, and I lived down in Florida, where he and his family are, and many of his brothers and sisters. And I was given everybody's phone number, his son, his wife, his brothers and sisters, and I talked to everybody. And I was in the office as they went around business. So for just even before we filmed, I was there for 3 months just watching, and I saw that people gravitate towards him, and because he's a natural leader, and the that's the disconnect, right? Because the way the globalist media has painted him tries to negate that. And so in making a movie, I was like, well, how I watched something happen even as I brought in my Hollywood crew. I didn't use a special crew of just for this. I just used the same people. Many of them were liberals. Many of them were, Democrats. Many of them had voted for Joe Biden. And I said, come on down, give it a try. And I watched after one day around General Flynn, they were like, wow, this man's incredible. And they'd go back and forth, because then they'd go watch some hit piece on that PBS made, or but I said, well, how in a movie? But ultimately they'd be like, this guy knows it all. He knows where the bodies are buried. He's so warm and kind and intelligent. That I said, oh, how do I do this in a movie? How do I recreate what happens when people actually meet him?
Absolutely. And you came up with the story, with the story unfolding. Let's say the first part. Okay, you wrote the script. Let's say you wrote the what
Well,
was your
the truth wrote the script, right?
the
And
truth? Yes,
that was a
and you
lot.
put it together. You assembled.
We had, there was a large editing team, but the
Hmm.
main editor was Adam Riva, and
Hmm.
we had a lot of editors because we had a lot of footage and we were moving
Hmm.
fast. Um, but the main thing, my motto is stay out of the way, tell the
Okay.
story. In other words, how a filmmaker and filmmakers can get in there and start playing too many games, right? With all the filmmaking tricks. And I said, it's the simplicity, right? And that's as I first mapped out the story, right?
Hmm.
And and of course, first I was overwhelmed by the totality, the enormity of this story, because we're starting with more or less the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq in
Okay.
2003, and we're
Okay.
going up to 2020. Um, so it was, how do I tell a story that could be 9 hours, but tell it in 2 hours?
Yeah.
I said, and we
So
let
that's the genius. the genius of you to do it.
If you can.
Because it's a masterpiece. It absolutely, I tell all the Italians, guardatelo assolutamente, watch it absolutely. It is a historical record. In 2 hours, you get a real sense of what has happened. It's like Mr. Wiper just explained during that time. It is, and the touching too. It's very touching, and
Well, the
my,
humanity.
my compliments. I want to give you my compliments because it really is a fantastic work.
Well, thank you. You know,
Mm,
I'm amazed when often, um, if couples, right,
mhm.
a married couple or two people,
Yeah,
the person that wanted to watch it was more the political person, right?
yeah,
Oh, honey, we have to watch this, or
hmm,
but it's the other, it's the other one who's like, who ends up liking it more because of the heart. Because, and
yeah,
that's what I thought is, to understand this story, you have to, you have to open the heart to change the mind.
hmm,
So there is an emphasis on the human story, and we get into the family, and so it's a movie. It is a documentary, but when we were filming, I always said, no, it's a motion picture. I was just applying my film education to telling a narrative, right? And and just go through the beats as they happened.
yes,
And people found it. There have been more tears in theaters where we've been showing it than I expected. I'm like, and I get choked up to this day when I watch it. But and it's also inspirational, right?
yeah,
It's a story of survival. You
yes,
David and Goliath. This General Flynn and his family was up against the most powerful force on earth, the United
yeah,
States government, and they survived and they
yeah,
won. Right?
yeah,
Victory isn't completely finished yet, but we're and that inspiration is important, not just for Americans, but for Italians and all around the world, because I am an optimist, right? And we will, as they say in the movie, the Flynns band together and they fight and they will survive and win, and so will the people. And so when I do talk to people all over, some people are beat down because this has been a long fight.
mm,
And I noticed that in Europe a lot. But people need that hope, because we are there. There is light. There is light at the end of this dark tunnel.
absolutely. In fact, now these words just make me remind me how General Flynn and many people, me included, are certain that what this movie represents, the story of General Flynn represents, is the perfect battle between the good and the evil. In fact, when in the trailer, it's very significant that you chose to put in that 1 minute precisely the warning of Barack Obama, who is, in my opinion, the biggest fraud perpetrated in America and the world. And he says the number one enemy, okay, the one person to watch, okay, when Trump came in is General Flynn. So what does that tell you? That he hired Flynn because he's intelligent, yeah. But then when he saw that he was a good man, okay, when he saw that he wasn't there to destroy America after by his plan, he knew, like you said, where the bodies were buried. He could not afford him to go and serve a man who cares about America, Trump. And this is what he was warning him about. And you can see there by that, just by that warning, how General Flynn was a man fighting for America, fighting for the good of America, while Barack Obama and all his entourage, okay, is there, like Biden, like to dismantle the United States of America, as it is doing. You can see it. They are really brick by brick. They are hammering on this fantastic. I don't know how to say in English, but let's call it this building, let's say, okay, that is the United States of America, this house that is for us all, it represents the freedom. They want to break down the temple. That was the word I was looking for. America represents the temple of freedom for us. It is that place where in Europe and past centuries, well, if everything goes wrong, we can always go to America. But now, if there is no more America, there's no more place to go. Where do you go? China and communist China. Where do you go? Right? And
Right.
what they're doing right now, they are, with the hammer and all the other things to break down, they're taking down this beautiful temple that is necessary for even the mind of the people. And this is a good, freedom, because is a right given by God. He will win. You Americans will win. I know, like you said, it is a hard battle. There is a light at the end. And I believe me, like in every fable of the world, good at the end always prevails over the evil, because evil is a distortion. We are in a beautiful universe. It is a positive universe because we are in the physical world. The physical is a positive, and it is the nature. It's the force of our life. Life is positive. So, in this state of matter, in this state of existence, the negativity, the evilness will never succeed. It can interfere, it can cause harm, but it will never ultimately succeed. And it's always a matter of how much you allow this evilness, this harm, to manifest itself on us. It is always a matter of will. Like I always say, evil prevails when good men do nothing. If you allow it to happen, it will continue. If you allow a criminal to be a criminal, he will continue to be criminal. Okay? So, but it's because you allow him to do it. So people have to understand that it's in our hands to save America, to save freedom, and to give a decency in the life of people. Because with all this impoverishment, with all this, the crisis of drugs, the open borders, it's not making anybody happy. There is the sex trafficking of little children. This is horrible, horrible. I cannot even think about it.
Guya, a question for you. Did you
For me.
watch it? For your audience, did you watch it in Italy at flynnmovie.com?
Yes, in fact, I will put you will see all the banners of flynnmovie.com, and I will put it out for all the Italian people.
And were you able to access it in
Yes,
Italy
yeah.
without? Did you use a VPN? Or
Well, actually, I do have a VPN, but I have to see if I turn it off, if it works. But I will tell you about it. Otherwise, I will make sure
because I
to
get a lot of inquiries from people in France and Italy and Canada.
Mhm,
And I've
mhm.
said, well, it's very easy. You go to flynnmovie.com, but you might
Yeah,
need a VPN if you're not in the United States. But something about you were saying, um, you mentioned President Barack Obama,
yes,
um, and this movie is a starter kit, right? It's the foundation that will help people understand what's going to happen
yeah,
in the near future. But there's many mysteries, right? And if I this time we're in, the word I use a lot that is essential is humility, right? Because quite often we will see, we don't know. But that question of why did Barack Obama and his administration bring in General Flynn into his administration, the Obama administration?
Yeah.
Was it to, oh, he's genius? He wrote a paper called Fixing Intel that uh, kind of redefined how we should handle intelligence, basically decentralizing intelligence. Or did they bring them in because they respected him so much as an intelligence officer in Iraq and Afghanistan and many other wars? Or was it a case of keep your friends close but your enemies closer?
Hmm.
These questions will be answered as things unfold. And the other issue I think that is very important to me and people all around the world was war. Right?
Absolutely.
General Flynn was, as a soldier, as a war fighter, was actually one of in my opinion, seemed to have been one of the few people inside the Obama administration uh, who was actually trying to get us out of these endless wars, right? So he was, and in the movie, you can see, and this is something I saw long before the cameras came in, that when he
Hmm.
talks about what he saw in war, and,
Hmm.
and standing over dead bodies. Um, his eyes, you could just feel the emotion.
Hmm.
And that is something I thought it unifies all people, right? Which is that, and why I'm so passionate about someone like General Flynn, and especially General Flynn should be in a position of power making decisions, is because we don't have enough people who are at that table, be it in Rome or Paris or Washington D.C. or Beijing or London, who have actually seen war and the destruction it causes. And so, when he speaks of it, there's an incredible, yes, if needed, he is a soldier, he is a warrior, and knows how to conduct war. But it's that kindness and his heart that the media tries to cover. That um, he was actually he was actually trying to get us out of these messes. And one of my first questions, for example, was why is it? Why is it that the United States, we were in and out of World War II in 2.5 years with a decisive victory, but
Yeah.
we lingered in Afghanistan for 20 plus years, and Iraq almost as long. And that was question number one. You know?
Absolutely. I look. This is incredible. This your work is a historic piece. It is so helpful. It will be watched forever because it's really it, uh, it has, like you said, that human part that is behind what the general went through, and it encloses everything because it's not just a matter of reading a history or a chronological thing of events. Here you get behind with the humanity that is at play behind all these operations. And it is very important. I really recommend everybody to watch this movie if you still haven't seen it. And I will check about the VPN for the Italians. If that's so, I will add it on the video that we just did when I'm gonna edit after the interview. And to conclude, Mr. Wiper, yesterday there was the debate between Trump and Biden. Embarrassing. Even the Italian newspapers were embarrassed for Biden. Terrible, terrible. And but what is your idea of the future?
What
Will Trump win? Will he go to jail?
I
What do you
watched that
see?
last night, and it was the first time I watched CNN
Okay,
in a long time.
long
And what
time.
I see is there's a narrative at work, in my opinion, because immediately afterwards, uh, every there were like 10 commentators on CNN, and they're loyal to the Democrats, um, which is a captured operation. Uh, but they all said, "Oh, Joe Biden was terrible." So they're setting a narrative that he needs to be replaced, right?
Okay, yeah,
And they also set a narrative that, "Oh, Donald Trump is he wasn't good either," and so basically they attacked both, right?
mm,
Which means I look at the narrative that's unfolding as they're setting the stage to replace with someone else. Um, and we'll see what happens. And we could go back. This has happened in our history, where you maybe they're going to let us get it through the convention, and
mhm.
uh, there were many fascinating things happening with the narrative, but um, I think the Democrats will try to slip someone else in besides Joe Biden.
I guess they don't have much choice. It's like you said, how they will do it, if they will change the vice president and then get the new vice president to become the president, or maybe try to get Biden elected and then the new vice president will become president after the first day of his presidency. There are many ways they can shuffle the cards.
It wasn't natural last night. It was they were basically beginning the media narrative that Joe Biden needs to be replaced. So
Yeah.
the drama everyone will watch is how does this unfold?
Yeah. In
And
fact, one thing I noticed was that the anchors, the people who ask the question, I think is the interviewers, I don't know, they usually are very, in the past, with Donald Trump, they were very, very aggressive. They were interrupting him. They would correct him, like I remember was debating him. I was debating Trump, or instead of allowing Biden to debate. And I think not Biden. It was a Hillary, but I don't remember. I remember it was this guy, and so instead, yesterday they were like and they were asking tough questions, not tough questions, but real questions to Biden as well, and they weren't so protective, like usual. And I was like, strange, they looked fair, and it seemed like they want to, like you said, they either gave up on him, or like you say, they are uh, allowing the truth of Biden to come out slowly, 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 to then to present a new person, which is absolutely. But
we call it the switcheroo.
sorry, how do you say that?
The switcheroo, right?
Squitcheroo.
Change of power, whether you to
Okay.
switch, right? So they
Oh, okay.
call it a switcheroo, right? And
Switcheroo.
now, and people can say, will it be Michelle Obama? Will it be Hillary Clinton? Will it be
Yeah.
Newsom? Probably not, because nothing's good in California right now. But uh, to me, it was not natural. It was they immediately um, they immediately began the narrative as soon as it ended, making so that all Americans are talking right now, like, "Oh, we got Joe Biden can't do it," and but nothing was. In other words, he was as incompetent as he is every time he's on camera. But
But I have to ask you something, just for curiosity, because you're in America. With this, I want to ask, so the Italians understand. Because our question is there really an American there? Because you walk in the streets, like you say, you go in the stores, you talk to the people. I'm not there, and I cannot know. But are there Americans who actually say, "Oh, I'm going to vote for Biden" in the streets, in the city, in the town.
Um, there will be the diehards that it's just pride, like
Okay, yeah.
standing by
I
their.
don't. Yeah,
It's like someone who just they love their football team and
yeah,
they're just. But and I'll there, but mostly you have silence. Those that were very passionate 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, they're
mm,
quiet.
mm,
And then they just switch over to all they can talk about is negative against President Trump, right?
yeah,
So you say, so what is your solution?
yeah,
And they just go back. So they say nothing about Joe Biden,
mm-hmm.
but we'll see then. But if there is a switcheroo, right? There is a switcheroo, uh, then instantly, then it'll be like a fresh start. Oh, well, it's
Yeah,
Michelle Obama, it's Hillary Clinton, it's Gavin Newsom, right? And but it's the same team, it's the same
yeah.
policies.
Va bene, thank you so much, Mr. Weimer, for having come here. I can call you Scott,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely. Please, please.
Okay, grazie Scott for having come on War Room Italia, and I will translate this interview for the Italians. E niente, I wish you maximum success and that you can please make sure that your movie reaches every American, even the Democrats, the diehard Democrats, because it it will, however, resonate. Move a little inside of them that it is a matter of saving their own country, not a matter of your favorite team. Now it's not a matter. We're not in a place in time where we can play. We have to be adults today. The future of the world is at stake. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Grazie.
Grazie. Thank you. Bye bye.
Grazie mille. Ciao, 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 ciao. Okay. So thank you very much for having been with me today. And you met a fantastic person. You saw a super talented filmmaker, because when you will watch the movie, you will agree with me. I hope you will all watch it. You will see here underneath where you can find it, download it. And in the end, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for having been with me even today. See you next time. Ciao.